Welcome back. Today we're going to do a third day on this factoring lesson, and the focus of this is going to be factoring when I can pull something out first. So that's going to be the focus, pulling something out and then being able to continue this factoring process. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if I'm starting with something such as x cubed plus 5x squared plus 4x, what I'm noticing is x is in every term. So what does that mean? It means that I can pull it out. So if I have an x everywhere, I'm going to pull that x out. And the way I'm going to pull that x out is by thinking of dividing it out of every single one of these. Okay? So by pulling it out of every single one, well, x cubed, take an x out of that, next to the first, is going to leave me with an x squared. Having a 5x squared, pulling an x to the first out of that, will just leave me with a 5x. And now 4x, pull an x out of that, is just going to leave me with 4. And so now, once I pull that piece out, once I pull that x out, now the interesting thing is I can actually still factor that one more time. So now I can still deal with what's in the parentheses because that 4 could be a 1 or a 4, a 2 and a 2. To get that x squared, remember that means I'm going to start with my x and x. And in order to get that 5x in the middle, we're going to need a plus 1 plus 4. So that's kind of the neat thing about this is now not only can we pull something out, but then we can actually keep going with that factoring process. So let's go through another example of this. So let's do 2x squared plus 14x plus 24. So this time I don't see an x everywhere, so I'm not worried about pulling that out. But what I do see is that every number is even. So if all numbers are even, you can pull out, a 2 from everything. All right, so this time I'm going to picture dividing every one of these by 2. I'm going to factor that 2 out, so that's going to leave me with x squared, 7x, and 12. And once you pull that 2 out, now the goal is going to be, can I break down that parenthesis even more? So to get that x squared, I'm going to get an x and an x. The 12 is 1 and 12, 2 and 6, or 3 and 4. And in order to get that 7x in the middle, we're going to want the 3 and the 4 because it multiplies to 12 and then it combines to give us that 7x. All right, so let's continue with another example on the back. So on the back, we have 3x cubed minus 6x squared minus 45x. So this time I notice I have x's everywhere. So that tells me I'm going to be pulling an x out. But then something else that I notice is each of the numbers, 3, 6, and 45, each of those are divisible by 3. So in this instance, I'm actually going to pull the 3 and the x out together, because I can pull that out of every single term. So I'm going to picture dividing every one of these by 3x. I'm picturing what that leaves me. So 3x cubed divided by 3x to the first, the 3's are gone, and that leaves me with an x squared. Negative 6x squared, and I'm pulling out the 3x. Negative 6 divided by 3 leaves me negative 2. X squared divided by x to the first will just leave me with an x. Negative 45x divided by 3x. Well, negative 45 divided by 3 is a negative 15. And then x divided by x just kind of cancels off. And if you recall at this point, now that I have that 3x factored out, now I can factor that again. Okay, the piece that's left in the parenthesis, let's factor that one more time. This x squared right here, that's coming from my x and an x. The 15 can come from 1 and 15 or 3 and 5. Now again, the thing that I'm noticing here is, notice your sign is negative, so that means I need a plus and a minus, one positive number, one negative number. And ultimately, I want that to give me a negative 2x. So what that means is I'm going to need a positive 3 and a negative 5. Okay, because that combination is going to give me the negative 2x that I'm looking for. All right, so let's do one more example together before I set you guys free to start working on the worksheet. So let's talk about 8y squared plus 60y plus 72. All right, so in this one, the y isn't everywhere, so I can't pull the y out. But if you look at every one of those numbers, okay, 8, 60, 72, so they can't all be divided by 8, right? The 60 can't be divided by 8. But something that you may notice is each one of them is divisible by 4. So in this instance, if I can divide all of them by 4, now this is going to make this a whole lot easier for me. That's going to leave me a 2y squared, a 15y plus 18. Now, in one like this, don't be afraid to go and use your calculator a little bit to help you see some of those combinations. All right? So now, again, the goal is always to see if I can break this down again. This time, notice though, I gave you a little bit trickier example. This is one of those ones where now there is an a term. So this is going to be a 2y and a y. And remember, that just makes it a little bit harder because now we really have to check those combinations and be very careful with getting that 15y in the middle. So I'm going to focus on the 18. So I'm going to write it off to the side here because I don't have too much space. So 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. So those are the different ones that I'm going to want to be checking. All right, so now the nice thing here is this is positive and this is positive. So that means I am looking for two positive numbers. So that is one redeeming feature to this question, is at least I already know everything I'm looking for is positive. And now it's just a matter of going through, checking all the combinations that I can. All right, so I'm going to start at the bottom of my list this time. I'm going to start working with the 3 and the 6. Okay, so 3 and 6. And let's check those combinations to see if we can get that 15y. So here I have 3y and 12y. That does give me the 15y that I'm searching for. So this actually is the proper factoring. Just remember that if you don't get the first factoring right away, then you would just start flipping the numbers. So I would switch the 3 and the 6. If that still didn't work, I'd scrap that all together, then maybe move on to the 2 and the 9 and checking those. So remember that step-by-step process of just how to kind of methodically search through your answers until you find the combination that works. I was just lucky and I got the combination on the first try. So what I would like you guys to do now is I would like you to try one for me. Okay, so I want you to take 10x cubed minus 26x squared minus 12x. And I want you guys to do that one for me. And then when you're done with the notes and you come and check in with me, I'm going to check to make sure you have that one right before you start working on that worksheet for me. So thank you for checking in, or thank you for watching. Make sure you work on that problem to check in with me before you do your worksheet.